like he's failed at his art, that he's not, worthy of it. He's like, why did he even try, and all this stuff, and he goes into a deep depression. I was like, holy crap, that's an artist feeling, I know that. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, I know exactly where this kid's coming from, and so it was very easy to get into character for it, and I was really excited to see what kind of journey they were going to take him on to get out of that rut. And it ended up being one of the most inspirational and cathartic experiences of my career. And the show just kind of exploded. It came out of nowhere, like no original manga, no anything like that. It was, for those of you who were at the panels yesterday, that is the prime example of the Japanese taking a risk with a new title. It wasn't a sure bet. It wasn't based off of a popular manga that they knew would probably sell really well. It was an original story. They had no idea how this was going to pan out. And it became a worldwide phenomenon before the first month was over. And so, like, we all just kind of rode the wave with everyone else, and as each new episode came out, we were getting the story as everyone else was, and a theory crafting ourselves. In fact, we were kind of watching the forums and Tumblr and stuff like that, just kind of looking at other fan theories. And after the episode where Yuri pokes Victor's head and he's all worried that his hair is thinning and stuff, someone on the internet was like, Victor's hair is thinning, he has cancer, they're gonna kill him. So and there's us in the booth, we're just like, they wouldn't do that. Would they? And like then we really started looking at the different signs and coming up with our own little conspiracy theory, and then we actually thought, me and Sunny Street were like, they're gonna kill Victor! They can't do that! And like, it pulled us in such, like, we were so, like, we became fans of the show while we were working on it, and it was a really, really cool experience. And then on top of it, kind of cherry on and icing on the cake, not only did it end up being this really beautiful story about the pursuit of perfection in art and overcoming your own self-doubts and doing that through the help of your friends and loved ones, but it was also a story about finding self-love through one of what is, in my view, as a fan of the show, I think it is easily the best portrayal of a healthy male and male relationship. Because they treat it like any other relationship. It's not put out as like, oh, they might be gay. Ooh. It's just, oh, they're with each other. Cool, back to skating. Yeah, it's like, yeah. It's like, and people are just like, oh, cool. It works. We accepted it. It was just a very unanimous. It was like, they're totally a fan. And even if they're not necessarily a sexual couple in that regard, they are very easily a very loving friendship, a very loving partnership, not only between two people, but between a coach and a student. And that also is one of the best portrayals of that type of relationship that I've seen between two guys in anything. Because it didn't presume that one of the guys has to be macho or has to take on the role of the guy in the relationship. They were just two people. And I could go on and on and on about that for the entire panel, but I don't want to. I want to make sure you guys have questions in too. I'll close with, I feel like Yuri is the latest in a very long string of shows that I've had the privilege of being part of over my career that broke the mold. Princess Jellyfish, Snow White with the red hair. Like these shows came along at a time when people really needed someone to represent them and in a positive light. And it's changed lives, and Yuri did the same thing. I can't tell you how many people I've had come up to me for the last 2 years now, at probably 40 some odd conventions, and over private messages and emails and everything else, how many people have told me from all different walks of life how these shows have helped them. And in the case of Yuri, people telling me that it inspired them to become an ice skater, or like after overcoming a debilitating physical handicap or something, or just picking ice skating back up after they had lost the interest in it when they were kids because they felt that they were no good, or people that came out to their parents or decided that they wanted to start living as their true selves to make themselves happy, and that show gave them the courage to do it. It's just, we need more shows like this, like Yuri, like Snow White with the red hair, Princess Jellyfish. It's very obvious from just how popular these shows have been, especially Yuri becoming a phenomenon. Really, to me, shows that there is a desperate need from people for shows like this. It's been kind of a chaotic few years for a lot of the world lately, and to have shows that not only portray characters going through those hard times and coming out on the other side better, stronger, happier people is important, but it's equally important that they aren't all straight cis white males. And the fact that we're starting to see a lot more of that, I think, is the first real sign. Is the fact that we're seeing it in anime of all things too, is a real positive sign. And I'm hoping that it continues. Yes.
How did it feel knowing, I'm not sure if you watched the Olympics this year, seeing Yuri on Ice being like the thing being performed in front of not just the U.S. audience but the world stage.
And that U.S. commentators in English and who knows how many different languages were talking about, oh, this is from this show, Yuri on Ice, in Japan, in animation, and anime.
And you check back the Yuri on Ice DVDs, there's a quote from Johnny Weir. How did that feel?
Oh my God, I mean, it's still surreal. Did anybody watch the Olympics, the Winter Olympics earlier this year and stuff? Yeah, the two Japanese pair skaters, their entire free skate routine was set to Yuri's theme, was Yuri on Ice. And people in the audience knew it too. There were people in the U.S. audience that were cheering, losing their freaking minds over over that song. And after it was over, people were throwing Makachi plushies into the ice, and it was just, and those little sushi pillows and stuff like that. Yeah, go ahead. So can we do it? Can we wait till after the panel? Okay. All right. Yeah, it was surreal as hell. I was just like, that's my character theme on the Olympics. What? It's still. I was just like, this can't be real life, but it was, and that to me was just kind of at the end of a very long, cool year after that show, literally changing my life and my career. That was just a nice little cherry on top. It was like, holy crap! Yes.
Check this out.
All night, nice dude. Looks really good.
Thank you.
It's fantastic, man. But yeah, man. It's anyway. I've answered the question. Any other questions? Yes.
I was gonna ask what your favorite scene was with Yuri, but I also wanted to know if you found the emotional scenes to be difficult, or if it was easier to get in character for those.
Some of the emotional scenes, absolutely not. In a lot of ways, I have always found the ability to get into emotional characters fairly easy, just because I tend to identify with them in a lot of ways. I've been through a lot of the same things, at least. And if I haven't been through exactly the same thing they've been through, I've at least been through something similar enough that I can use that as a basis to feel those emotions again. But two scenes in particular were incredibly rough. And one of them was when Yuri comes home to his dead dog, and he's saying goodbye because he wasn't there. And my first dog, she died after I moved away, and I wasn't there for that, and that's always been a really hard thing for me. And then day before I recorded that scene, my wife's dog of 18 years passed away. So I was reliving all of my stuff from my dog through her, and also helping her through her pain. And so right as I went in, it was just like him saying sorry, and I'm sorry I wasn't there, was me saying I'm sorry through my dog. So it was rough, but no pun intended. The other one was the garage scene, where he has his big kind of breakdown, and I kind of touched on this in the panel yesterday, and to me, that is the end that's kind of the climax of the arc that starts with Yuri failing at the Grand Prix in the first episode. That's just, these are the bottled up feelings and emotions and thoughts he's kept in since the first episode of I don't believe in myself. I don't think I'm any good at this. I don't think I belong here or deserve to be here type thing. And they all come out in that scene in the garage. And that's an important moment for him. This is him just finally dealing with those feelings and those fears. And he finally has someone close enough to him that makes him feel loved, that he actually can say those things. And I'm sure we've all been in a place in our life at some point where we just kind of wanted to, where we at least felt like saying, I need someone to believe in me more than I believe in me right now. And that's what he's doing. But for me, it's a very emotional outpour of a moment. And for me, I was terrified to do it because I grew up in small town Texas in the middle of nowhere. And, I was, always taught, even when I started doing, I loved theater and was doing theater instead of sports and stuff, I was still told, not necessarily by my dad, but just by other kids and their dads and stuff, where it was like, boys don't cry, drink your gasoline. And so it was really hard for me to get those walls to come down. And it always has been over my entire career. But for whatever reason, I think it was a mix of just stuff that was happening in real life at that time, mixed with my own experiences and how I've grown as an actor over the years. It finally came down to a moment where I was able to get past my fears of the moment and just feel it. And I was very proud of the result.
I really liked the result.
Thank you.
It made me cry because I could really relate.
Did my job.
Yes, I could really relate to that moment, and so I really felt it coming through, and I wanted to know how.
Yeah.
Did that even
It felt like that. This is like, I was crying.
Like,
So,
any anime that can make you cry, they're really doing their job, because you have to have
Thank you.
emotion when you're watching an anime. It can't just be like, oh, I'm bored, I'll just watch something. You
Right.
have to be emotionally involved into it.
right, and there is some anime that you can just turn on. It's just like, I don't want to use my brain right now. Fan service shows.
But
That's
I like
mostly
the
what those
ones
are.
that make you
And laughing.
think.
Do what? But yes, ones that make you think or make you feel or make you do anything like that, yes, those are the ones that are, to me, truly artistic because they are actually making an emotional connection.
That's why I don't even watch like Nickelodeon cartoons anymore. Have you seen the ones that are being made these days?
Yeah, I haven't watched
Yeah.
most American cartoons for a while, except
They're
for like,
terrible.
I need to start Steven Universe.
Steven Universe.
And I love Archer.
Yes, Archer's good. Regular show is good, but you rarely see any good American, show.
Korra.
Yeah.
Korra and Avatar, stuff like that. And we are starting, and then still DC Comics still puts out really quality animation. Oh, well,
Right.
I had some issues with the Killing Joke animation, but the comic was a masterpiece, but it's hard to, they made a really concerted effort to make it really, really close to the comic, and I appreciated that, but there was just something about it. And as much as I love Mark Hamill, just kind of the way he held, some of the way he played with the Joker's lines in the real big moment of that movie seemed kind of underwhelming to me, but can't make everybody happy. Yes, America, for the most part, we view cartoons as something that is comedic. It's supposed to make you laugh, and they make them in that format for both kids and adults, but there is really nothing beyond that, with the exception of like some of the newer stuff the past few years, like the past decade, like Avatar, Korra, Gravity Falls, and Steven Universe, stuff like that. But like they are kind of changing. We are starting to see people actually use cartoons for something more than just comedy. And even like My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, like the one that's been going on for a while now. That show is up to like what? How many seasons? Yeah, 8 or 9 seasons now. They've got a movie. They've got a couple of other things too. And it's a good show. It's got quality writing. It's got fantastic animation and music. And while yes, it is very much a traditional American cartoon in the sense that for the most part it's there to kind of make you laugh and it's lighthearted and it's more aimed towards children. But they handle it and write it kind of the same way that Animaniacs was written and handled back in the 90s, and where they do sneak in a lot of things that adults will appreciate or that only adults would get.
Yep.
And those lessons are not the lessons that they impart in those shows are not just for kids. Adults can use a refresher in those sometimes too. So like we do have a lot of great examples of really quality animation in this country. It's just for the most part we're stuck in this traditional mindset of they're for kids or they're just for comedy.
Yep.
Whereas, and I think that's one of the big reasons so many of us these days now go to anime because it's the next logical step.
Yep.
I prefer, and I've always preferred, the fantastical world or the fantastical playground that is animation. That you can at all times suspend your disbelief because it is such an otherworldly thing that you are watching the show take place in. And because of that freedom, you can, of course, kind of bend the laws of reality to whatever you want them to be, within reason. But you can also find much more creative ways to get your message across. And as a kid, I loved that style of storytelling, animation and storytelling. And so when anime came along, like when, as a teenager, I was getting to the point where I was like, I don't really get anything out of these cartoons I was growing up with anymore. I wanted animation, but I still wanted animation because I loved the medium. And then I found anime. This is, and then as a teenager, when you first find it, you're just kind of like, oh yeah, this is the stuff. This is a cartoon for a freaking adult like me. And you find stuff, and it's got horror and gore, and sexuality, and there's comedy, and there's adult stuff, and there's kid stuff, and it's everything. And no matter if you're a sci-fi, or a fantasy, a horror fan, or whatever, there's something for you. There's almost no limit to the stories you can tell within the confines of this world. If you allow yourself to open I really hope that we see a change where at some point the majority of American animation, I know that we'll have reached that point when we have a movie in theaters come out with the same hype as a Disney film was when we were kids. That is an American-made animation that is for adults. And not because it's comedy or something, or it's crude. Like, what was that movie just recently, the CG movie about all the food?
No, I know what it is.
Sausage Party. It's just like...
I watched that last night with my brother.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, just from the preview, it's just like, they're really proud of the fact that this is a cartoon saying the F word. They're just so proud of the fact that these cartoons are cursing. It's like, that's old hat, guys. You want to impress me with an American animation in theaters, come up with something that is for adults that takes the audience and the story seriously.
What about Beetlejuice? It's not a cartoon.
It had a cartoon series, and it was more. It pushed some boundaries. A lot of parents hated it when I was a kid because of a lot of the controversy surrounding it. But you mean just the regular movie Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
The live action, what about it?
There are some scenes that are really adult-like. And
Well, yeah.
I'm like thinking, this is a PG movie?
Yeah. Oh god, in the 90s especially, there were a lot of PG movies that got away with some stuff that
Yeah,
now
'cause
would
in
get them rated
The
PG-13.
old system was G, PG, and R.
Mhm.
There wasn't any PG-13 until at least I'd say the late 80s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I watched a video on YouTube with, Nostalgia Critic, right?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's
Like,
like,
he talked about that in a segment, like there was G, PG, and R.
Mhm.
Now, it's more or less that they're trying to get into the PG genre. Halloween, right? It's coming up in October.
yeah.
Back in 1978, it was R, but now they want to bring it to a PG perspective because they want more audience.
That's not gonna work.
It's not.
It's just, I don't think so anyway. I'll be surprised if it does.
I mean, there was people that went to the viewing to like see the cuts and everything. They didn't really like it, but there are times where the director doesn't like it and they throw it out there. The people love it.
Yeah.
And then it also works and vice versa. The
Right.
director might like it, but then the people will hate it.
Yes.
I mean, me personally, if I made a film and if I didn't like it, and if the people like it, well, that's pretty good because power to the people, right?
Right. What's your question?
I was wondering, with Yuri on Ice finishing its first season, on all the hype about the scene with Yurio and his skating routine, from what I gathered, like the next step is a movie,
Mhm.
not another season.
Yes.
Do you know if they're like, if that's they're planning on that being like the final wrap up, or?
I have no idea. I just know, like, I know the movie's coming. They haven't even announced a freaking date yet. So, like, I'm really hoping that the movie ends up just being like a next step because from the sound of it, it sounds like that it's going to be a backstory for Victor,
Okay.
like his origin story, basically. So we get to see him skate more. I don't know how involved Yuri or Yurio or any of the cast from the first season is really going to be involved in the story. If it's going to be all flashback or like partly flashback or something like that. But whether or not they're planning on anything after that, I have no idea. I really hope that we get a second season because Yurio's story is still incomplete.
Yeah.
And granted, yeah, I would love to see where Yuri and Victor go from there. But I feel like the next thing that if they make another season, I feel like it's going to, like, if it doesn't necessarily focus on Yuri Katsuki, it will focus on Yurio and him finding his agape. Probably with Odebek, hopefully through like pair skating or something like that. But like, yeah, at this point, I'm just guessing.
Okay.
So.
Well, like Yuri hasn't got gold yet, and he and Victor were still going to maintain their
And what
coach.
season are they? 2? 3?
One.
One?
They only did one season.
Oh, they only did one season.
Yeah, it's 12.
I've heard of the show, but I haven't seen it.
Gotcha. It's it's only 12 episodes.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through other animes too, but I will dig into that. I know it's on Crunchyroll.
Yes. But
Get ready for the first season.
Yeah. Season 2
Because
is really good. I can't say anything about season 2. You have to see it.
About what?
Attack on Titan.
Oh,
I
yeah.
actually have the manga for Attack on Titan. I don't have the small. I actually have the
Colossal,
edition.
yeah.
I have like all 3 of them.
Nice.
I have like all 3 Attack on Titan Colossal editions.
What, the big books?
Yeah, the thick books.
Yeah, the really big
Got,
ones. Those ones
that
are-
Oh, the
big.
ones that mash a bunch of volumes
Yeah,
together.
yeah, that's why it's called the Colossal edition.
Yeah.
So the book is about like
That thick,
I
yeah.
believe.
Like a phone book thick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
About
10
the
pounds.
It's about like the size of a phone book.
You could kill someone with the Colossal Edition.
Well, not necessarily kill them. Probably just knock them out unconscious without any.
I can get creative. But yeah. Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
Between Yuri's two different skates, the Eros and Yuri on Ice, which one was your favorite? Like,
Arrows. The musical style, for one, is just too catchy. I really enjoy the fact that Yuri, when trying to find his Eros, when trying to find how he actually can feel like he's playing that character in the routine, that his decision, his realization is, oh, I can't be the guy. Like, I can't imagine this as me being some sort of lady killer or something. That the story in his head, the Eros, is a guy that seduces the woman and brings the woman back, and they enjoy each other's company, but then ultimately he's not satisfied and he lets her go and he goes on his own thing. But he realizes that's not him. He's not a lady killer or a ladies' man or anything like that. And also that idea of using that type of sexuality or sexual pleasure doesn't fulfill him in any way. But then he realizes, oh, but if I'm going to portray this story, I need to be the woman. I have to learn to move with feminine grace and feminine power and stuff. And so it changes the story that he's telling visually from being about a man seducing a woman to a femme fatale who is seducing men, and that she is in charge of her own sexual destiny and her own, and all that stuff. And like, she is the one who is irresistible and is bringing people in and experience, and they have their fun, but then she goes on and to find the next experience, and that realization of, I need to let go of any feeling of manhood, basically, or of being the male in this thing, and embracing my femininity. That is a really brave and open course to take. It's also artistically brilliant. It also, I think, kind of, I haven't found the right words yet to describe this particular feeling that I get from that particular decision. The only way that I've been able to describe it is, it makes me feel the same way that it felt when I was recording Princess Jellyfish. It makes me feel that power and that confidence that comes with femininity. That comes from a femme, like, not necessarily a femme fatale, but just the grace and the control and the power behind femininity, just naturally feminine. And getting to be in that space, that headspace, and play that is really liberating. And I for a guy to be so willing to just be like, oh no, I gotta be the woman in this situation. Like, I have to embrace my femininity or whatever. That's unheard of in our society in a lot of ways. Like, that's very polar opposite to what a lot of us are told while we're growing up, especially in terms of like gender roles or gender identity and stuff like that. The mere thought of portraying yourself as a woman or whatever is seen as being, unless you're doing it for comedic effect or something, then something's wrong with you. So, like, it was a really liberating and inspiring moment for him to just decide, I'm going to be the woman in this, and that's how I'm going to find my Eros, my own sexual identity. And it is beautiful. And that's my answer. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Favorite song from the Yuri soundtrack?
All over, all sound, like all the songs.
Yeah.
Vietnamese Boogie.
Yeah.
I love Vietnamese Boogie. It's just so fun and peppy, and like, I love the jazz part of it. Really kind of makes you move and everything, and it's just great. I love it. Vietnamese Boogie and Eros, I would say, are my top two. In that, Vietnamese Boogie being my favorite. Yeah.
I think Yuri soundtrack.
Oh yeah, I bought it the moment it came out.
Thank you, iTunes.
There's no freaking way I'm not gonna get that. Yes.
Did you know when the video of Yuri skating after season ended was gonna come out?
The Welcome to the Madness?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
What was
Look,
your thoughts on it when you saw it?
I liked it. And I love the fact that there's no dialogue. There's not a single word spoken. Don't
Yeah.
need it. And yeah, that to me, like, Welcome to the Madness in a lot of ways was a little more fan servicey than the show was. That kind of like it seemed like a fun treat, but it also served, I think, as a way to really solidify in the fans' minds that there is a friendship or a connection between Yurio and Otabek, and that they're going to use that, I think, to go into either another movie or, God willing, another season. And I really do feel like that's where they want to go next. Is that Yurio needs to. Yurio just needs a freaking friend, man. Like he just needs a friend. He needs someone. He doesn't necessarily need a relationship like what Yuri has with Victor, because again, Yuri and Victor's relationship is about eros. It's about sexual love. It's about trying to find that's that whole part of the story. Yurio is looking for agape, unconditional love, and that's what true friendship is. So I feel like he and Otabek are just going to become really good buds. And that type of friend, that is going to because Yurio has never made himself vulnerable to just a simple friendship. So he's never opened himself up to that, and so I feel like that relationship is what's going to make him find his agape, that style of relationship. And who knows, maybe they will kind of make it another Yuri, like a Yuri and Victor type thing, and that's fine too. But I really feel like one of the most important parts of the story is the fact that, because a lot of people, to me, when I do cons, some people get really offended when I say that Yuri and Victor have a very loving friendship. They'd be like, they're not friends, they're lovers. I was just like, why can't you be friends and lovers? Why, what about the fact that you might be in a relationship, a sexual relationship with someone else, doesn't make that person your friend or your best friend? My wife is my best friend. I do all the things with her that I did with, in a lot of ways, my best friends growing up. But we also have and I get in a lot of ways the same type of loving support from her that I got from my friends, because we're social creatures. That's what we do. But I don't think that necessarily you need a sexual relationship to call it love.
Exactly.
Or to call it true love. You can still have, there are plenty of people out there that are married to each other, but there is no sexuality between them. Like people there that are asexual, for example, or something like that. Or it's like the importance of the relationship is that it is loving, and you both come out stronger as a result of it.
And great.
And you make compromises and you change. It's the whole thing. It's the challenge of a relationship. But to say that they can't be friends, or to be offended by the idea of, no, they have to be lovers and it has to be gay all the time, and it to me is kind of like cheapening the relationship.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like devaluing.
Yeah, and at that point you're on the verge of just being about queerbait.
Yeah.
At that point it's a fetish. It's not I love and respect this relationship because it is pure and it is loving. I'm into it because I like the idea of two penises going in. And it's like okay, that's fine too, but don't sit there and pretend like you're concerned with the actual relationship of the characters, like the actual loving relationship of the character. Anyway, I'm sorry, I deviated on the whole other thing. I understand. I hope y'all get what I'm trying to say with that. But either way, whatever Yurio and Otabek's relationship ends up being, as long as it is loving and it shows Yurio that he doesn't have to be afraid to make himself vulnerable. That, I think, is the important part. Whether or not that's what they go with, no idea. I'm just coming from the perspective of a fan who loves the show at this point. I want to see these stories continue. I want to know what happens with them. And I want to see what happens. What's the next challenge that Victor and Yuri are going to have? What's the next relationship hurdle they're going to have to get over? What's the next big artistic move for Yuri? He's found his arrows. What's the next step? What's the next step toward the goal? There's so many possibilities, and again, that's another sign of just a really well-written show, that people can get so invested in it that they can see all these different ideas and all these different potential outcomes. Yes.
Yes,
And then-
since we're